Welcome to Business Watch. I'm Chief Robert Osecki of the Brunswick Hills Police Department. And with me today as my guest, I have Van Harp, Special Agent in charge of the Cleveland office of the FBI. Welcome to the show, Van.
Good afternoon, Bob. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very welcome. If you can, to start out the presentation, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the agent in charge of the FBI office.
Well, Bob, I've been the agent in charge for Cleveland, the Northern District of Ohio, for just about a year now. Prior to my arrival here, I was assigned to our headquarters in the Personnel Division in a staff job for about a year and a half, where I was responsible for health care, employee assistance, the personnel automation, automation of the personnel records, employee benefits, and movement, transfer, reassigning of our personnel around the country. That was for about a year and a half. And prior to that, for 6.5 years, I was the number 2 up in Buffalo, New York, and was responsible for the entire spectrum of our jurisdiction, the day-to-day operation of the Buffalo Field Division. We covered the western 17 counties of the state of New York. Prior to that, I'd been on the inspection staff for a year, where we would tour the country and inspect our various field offices. And then I had been in the Personnel Division again back during the mid-'80s. Prior to that, I was the supervisor in charge of Charleston, West Virginia. I had 3 satellite offices and roughly about 25 agents and half a dozen support people. And then prior to that, I was up in Detroit, Michigan and Lansing, Michigan for 10 years, worked cases. I was a street agent. And then right before then, I'd been in Little Rock, Arkansas and Texarkana, Arkansas, where I was assigned directly out of training school. Might add, I even covered Hope, Arkansas, the birthplace of President Clinton.
Okay, excellent. Now that we've heard some of your history, and it sounds like you've been to many interesting places around the country, how about some of the history of how the FBI got started?
Well, roughly in about 1927, J. Edgar Hoover was appointed by the Attorney General. He'd been in, I think it was called the Bureau of Investigation at the time, and there was no, it's my understanding, no principal investigative branch of the federal government, and he was appointed director of the Bureau of Investigation. It was named Federal Bureau of Investigation. And he had a lot of foresight with respect to the organizing and putting together the Bureau and working with state and local authorities. And because of their successes over the years, there were a number of statutes that were passed primarily in the 30s as a response to the gangs, roving gangs like Bonnie and Clyde and, you know, all the romanticized groups now. And such as the Mann Act, and gave us responsibility for kidnapping as a result of the Lindbergh kidnapping. And because of the gangs traveling interstate back in those days to avoid investigation and prosecution by your state and locals, there was an interstate character that was added or in these statutes back during that period of time, and it gave the Bureau, the FBI, primary jurisdiction in a lot of areas over the course of time. Back in the early 30s was when the FBI was first authorized to carry sidearms as well. And I think it was in 1935 our National Academy was formed. And I know you're starting the National Academy. You're going to report there in June, end of June. I'd like to just publicly compliment you on that. That's quite an achievement. That's a very elite fraternity, if you will. I know when you talk in terms of, say, 35,000 attendees, that sounds like a lot, but when you go back to 1935, it's really not. And it is a true worldwide fraternity, if you will. You're going to be in a class for about 3 months, and you're going to be with command-type officers from around the world. You're going to be taking courses such as leadership and administration and police command and control, and it's accredited by the University of Virginia, and attendees at the National Academy can receive 22 credit hours through the University of Virginia, and it's quite an accomplishment. My hat's off to you, and it's going to be an experience of a lifetime, and you're going to really meet some outstanding people through that whole process, and some lifelong friends.
I'm looking forward to the opportunity, and I take it as a great honor to have been accepted. And I know that for as long as people are on a waiting list to get into the academy, and for the stringent background investigations that are done in physical, and it's made me go on a little bit of a weight loss program since first of the year here, but I've got a clean bill of health, the good part of it. Plus, I understand that the statistic is under 1% of all law enforcement in the United States gets to attend a national academy.
That's correct.
So it's definitely not something that's given out too lightly, and that's why I'm very happy to get that opportunity.
It's quite a compliment and a tribute to you and Brunswick Hills and the community for approving this. It's quite an accomplishment.
Thank you. As far as cooperation with different law enforcement agencies, you had mentioned that in the 30s that the Bureau had overall jurisdiction over many areas. Does that still stand true today?
Well, Bob, it's a confusing somewhat, or complicated situation. A number of our responsibilities, we have primary jurisdiction, but that primary jurisdiction is concurrent with a number of other federal agencies and a number of state and local law enforcement agencies as well. Take the crime of bank robbery, for instance. Every state and local jurisdiction that I've ever been in, they all have an armed robbery statute. A bank robbery, as long as there is a sidearm or a weapon used, it's a violation of the armed robbery statute. Because of all of our requirements, unless there are aggravating circumstances like shots fired or it's a gang that's hitting banks in a very, very large multi-jurisdictional area, we work right with the state and local people, law enforcement, and many times the prosecution will go in favor of the local or state authorities, and many times the local and state authorities, just by virtue of their presence, will be the first responders, and many of those they solve before we've had a chance to get heavily involved. We respond to the scene right away as quickly as we can get there, and we work jointly with the state and local people, and our philosophy is to let's take the prosecution wherever you get the best bang for the prosecutive buck, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As far as the bank robberies are concerned, does everyone work under the same set of circumstances, United States-wise, or is it by state regulations and jurisdictional responsibilities?
Well, Bob, with respect to the FBI, we work them. It's part of our training program. We work those fundamentally the same, whether it's in California or Florida or New York. Now, I know there may be a little different prosecutive philosophy in some of the different areas, but we investigate them. It's a pretty standardized procedure, as with most of our investigative efforts, and we do work, like I said, work with the state and local people, and we will turn that over. We'll testify in the state and local court if it goes to the state or local authorities, or if it's on on the federal side, the state and local officers will testify for us or for the federal government in furtherance of the prosecutive effort.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be a good time to bring up the FBI crime lab, which is located in Washington.
Right.
It has come under some recent scrutiny with the Oklahoma situation and other things. Can you respond at all of that?
Well, in general, I know there's been some criticism directed towards the laboratory. Much of it has been unfounded. There were some mistakes. There have been some mistakes made. We had identified a number of the areas of weaknesses and had started to address those before it became in the public domain, so to speak. There are 35 units in our laboratory, each one highly specialized. 3 of the units were the ones that were receiving the criticism and were really closely examined. And the most serious allegations made by one of our own employees, Fred Whitehurst, the most serious allegations following an exhaustive investigation and review by the Department of Justice Inspector General were unfounded, and that is there was no perjury committed, there was no fabrication of evidence, and in fact Mr. Whitehurst just recently testified as a defense witness in the Oklahoma City bombing trial in the last several days. And like I said, he testified as a defense witness, and he had, it was a speculation, a hypothesis on his part that there could have been a problem with the examinations and possible contamination. But the final question was, did he have any proof or evidence, or did he know of any? And he did not.
Okay, so basically with it, it's like a lot of things that go on, especially with law enforcement, is things that people feel are newsworthy, and there's fabrications and there's things that go far overboard to what the real situation is.
Well, Bob, I think he had some valid points. There were some weaknesses. Matter of fact, we are right now in the midst of a nationwide search for a new director of our laboratory. It's being accredited by the Association of Crime Labs. But we are looking for just an outstanding forensic scientist to run the laboratory with the top credentials, and we're looking at places like Lawrence, Livermore, and Sandia and Los Alamos for someone to come in and take over and calm some of those criticisms and questions about the laboratory.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the credentials people currently working in the laboratory have?
Well, I know there are very highly professional technical people, masters and PhDs and advanced study in the disciplines in which they are working, in metallurgy, firearms, biology, chemistry, spectrographic analysis, all of that, all of those forensic science areas.
Mm-hmm. Upon request, like if I called you and needed some help on an investigation, would all these services be available to me?
Absolutely. We provide those free of charge to our state and local counterparts. And I might add, we do over 600,000 examinations a year. That's a very large number, and there have been, again, going back to the criticism, as of right now, when during this program, there are no cases that I'm aware of that have been compromised as a result of the questions in the investigation of our laboratory. We have notified a number of prosecutors around the country that there may be a question, but it is may be, and we are erring on the side of caution to make sure that all that information is out, and so that there is no prejudice towards any person's right to a fair and impartial trial.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the tests and services and equipment that are in the lab?
I can't begin to describe it all, Bob, but like I said, the spectrographic analysis, the DNA analysis, we have the indirect lighting system in connection with fingerprints and palm prints and firearms and tool marks and document analysis and authentication and fine art, fine jewelry. It's just very advanced and sophisticated chemical and analyses and examinations. We conduct all of those type examinations at the laboratory. We're in the process also of reorganizing the lab, and there is a new lab being built. It has been since we opened our headquarters in 1972 at our current site at 9th and Pennsylvania in the Hoover Building. That's where the laboratory has been located. There's a new laboratory being built down at our academy down at Quantico, Virginia, and it's going to be a major enhancement and state-of-the-art facility.
Mm-hmm. So everything is definitely on a cutting edge, and if there's any new technology out there, it's probably going to be in this new laboratory, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Okay. Throughout your career and all the places you've been, what types of cases have you worked on?
My specialty, if you will, goes back to organized crime and corruption and a little bit of drug work. To go back to the concurrent jurisdiction, if you will, in 1982, the FBI, for the first time in its history, was given concurrent jurisdiction in drug investigations with the DEA. And before that time, we never really were involved in drug or illegal narcotics investigations. So as a consequence, I don't have a whole lot of field experience. I do have some, but we were just getting involved for the first couple of years before I got into the management ranks. But we are heavily involved in that area now. I worked a number of, in the Detroit, primarily in the Detroit, Michigan area, a number of corruption and the traditional organized crime investigations.
Okay. Your responsibility as special agent in charge of the Cleveland office, how far out are you responsible for, and approximately how many people do you have that report to you?
Okay. The Cleveland division covers the entire northern judicial district of Ohio. It's the northern 40 counties. In addition to our Cleveland office, we have 9 satellite offices, and that's Toledo, Lima, Sandusky, Elyria, Mansfield, Canton, Akron, Youngstown, and Painesville. Have roughly 157 agents and another 127 support personnel who provide the collateral support functions in our investigative effort. We're responsible for the entire spectrum of FBI responsibility, and that goes from bank robbery and kidnapping and drugs to bribery, corruption, terrorism, aircraft hijacking, foreign counterintelligence, espionage, the entire gamut. Mm-hmm. One of the big growth areas, and I'd like to point out, is this computer fraud. Well, computer crimes in general. Mm-hmm. Computer fraud is a major area that we're focusing on. On July 15th, 1996, President Clinton signed Executive Order 13010, and it gave the FBI the lead responsibility for approximately 18 months to draw together all the government components and put together a comprehensive strategy for the protection of the nation's information infrastructure, to include the computer hacking and computer fraud. Now, part of that, a computer-related crime, is I would caution all the parents to pay attention to what their children are doing in these computers and these chat rooms. In the year that I've been here, I can cite 3 specific cases where young teenagers, and I'm talking the 12-14 age bracket, have made contact with pedophiles through these chat rooms and through the internet. And just luckily, working with a couple of local departments, we stopped. We stopped, which could have been some very, very serious situations with these young kids of tender age. And the parents should pay attention to what these kids are doing on these computers.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even have the internet in my house just because of those reasons. We're just recently getting it hooked up at the police department, and that's so we can keep track of anything that might be going on local. You know, you've got different patriot movements that are moving through the internet, different ways to search, and it's getting quite to be a concern of mine. I'm sure definitely if you've been working with it, that the patriot movement, how they're going deep undercover, and they're through the internet educating people on how to beat the legal system. It's just, it's ridiculous, and I agree and share with that the parents, if they have the internet, make sure that everything is definitely checked out and they are monitoring the individuals. Yeah. Plus, it just doesn't go locally. The internet, you can talk to somebody in Amsterdam, you can talk to somebody, you know, foreign countries at no other money's expounded. Right. It's not even a long-distance call.
Right. Which, when you mention the international connections, on October 10th of '96, the President signed into law the new Economic Espionage Act. And what that did, it filled in a number of gaps in the traditional espionage, and it really gave us some new tools. It's outstanding, and we have been trying to get the word out about that. And what it does is it fills in these gaps in this foreign state-sponsored espionage. It puts all that into a specific area, and it guarantees confidentiality, but also there's a statute in there that makes it a criminal violation. It's Title 18, Section 1832, matter of fact, of the United States Code, and we call it the commercial theft statute, where Company A stealing trade secrets from Company B, or a foreign corporation, if they're stealing the trade secrets of one of our companies, we can get involved in that. There is no longer a requirement for a foreign state-sponsored feature or aspect to that. And we're having several regional conferences. We have one coming up in June, and then we're going to have one in September or October, where we are having our representatives from all of the regional offices like Detroit and Chicago and Indianapolis, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and we're going to be addressing the investigative philosophy and direction in that area. And then on the second day, we're looking to have the corporate council and the CEOs of all the major corporations in an educational conference setting, because it is such a unique and new tool, and we're looking forward to using that.
That sounds great. And that's also a real good partnership and things to bring out. The business owners, business managers should be working very close with law enforcement.
Absolutely.
We're there
Absolutely.
to look out for everybody's best interests.
Right. The point of that new statute, Bob, is protection of trade secrets and you know, proprietary information. And one of the features about that new statute is it the court will provide confidentiality so that as it progresses through the judicial system, it protects that proprietary, the secret information, so that it should eliminate some of the compunction or the reluctance that business has of coming forward with some of those complaints.
Yeah, that's excellent with that being a federal crime. A lot more bite to it, it seems like.
Right, right.
If you could touch a little bit on problems with the healthcare system.
Well, it's the old concept to follow the money, and there is such a large amount of money in the healthcare industry in general, and no different than any other segment of society. There's going to be a small percent of people in that industry that will be trying to get an edge or gain an advantage, and frequently it will turn into criminal activity. And even if it's 1%, there's several $billion, and you can see how much money would be involved there. That is one of our priorities in Northern Ohio. Healthcare, in our white-collar crime program, healthcare and corruption and government fraud are our priorities. In our drug program, we're looking at cocaine and crack. Organized crime is one of our major targets, and also the violent crime. And we are working very closely with all of the state and local jurisdictions. We have 5 task forces that we are participating in Northern Ohio right now. Youngstown, back in the fall, turned their 1,000th arrest. The task force in Toledo, Ohio has well over 300. The task force up in Cleveland proper has well over, I think it's somewhere between 700 and 800 arrests. And those are all some of the top targets, the most violent criminals that we can locate.
Those are some staggering statistics, definitely. And, you know, I don't think people realize how close crime is, and, you know, if it doesn't affect them personally and somebody doesn't break into their house, I don't think they really realize what the big picture is and how it affects us all financially, or our quality of life, and most importantly, with our children. It's just, again, it's staggering. What about other white-collar crimes? We're running out of time, but if you could touch on them. What's the biggest white-collar crime right now that's under?
I'd like to point out bank fraud, embezzlement, telemarketing. We're very interested in telemarketing. So if anyone has any, either in the healthcare area or telemarketing, any complaints, call us. Our telephone number, if you can't get one of our satellite offices, it's area code 216-522-1400. And we would be more than happy to talk to you, send an agent out and talk to you and take your complaint and information and go from there. Mm-hmm. One other thing I'd like to add is we have a large turnover that has just started to occur the last year or two, and we're forecasting to occur the next couple of years. We are actively and aggressively recruiting qualified individuals, both for agent and support positions. We have a couple openings in Cleveland proper for support. We're looking for intelligence analysts and computer specialists. And on the agent side, we've already hired about 630-some agents this year, and we've got about another 400. It's a national competitive basis. And if you have a college degree and a clean record, you have to pass an extensive background investigation and a polygraph, and we'd be interested in talking to those that think they would qualify, you know, and like the commercial, we're looking for a few good people.
Okay, I'm glad you didn't say men, because we want to keep our female
Absolutely.
viewers.
Absolutely.
Well, we have run out of time now, and I really like to thank you for being on the show and taking away from your busy schedule. Do you have any closing statement that you'd like to say?
No, but if anyone's interested in the FBI, we do have a number of individuals that will come before civic and school groups for appearances and speeches. We'd be more than happy to do that. And if you think you see some criminal activity of any type, and if you don't talk to your local police department, let us know, and we could assist in one way or another. And if it's not within our jurisdiction, we make sure the state and local agencies receive that information.
Okay.
And Bob, I'd like to thank you and wish you best of luck at the National Academy.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Business Watch.